His world was destroyed. He died standing, alone, with his blade as the last hope of a ruined land. But fate gave him a second chance. Reborn on Earth, in a peaceful world unaware of what's coming. For the first time, he's not fighting to survive. He's fighting to protect something more important. Can the sword god who lost everything save the one world that still has something to lose? Let's find out. The main character's homeworld was destroyed by monsters that came out of the gate. People had to fight for survival, and this was MC's only occupation throughout his life. Now living in South Korea, he looks back and realizes that everything in that world was different. It was all natural, because at that time he was not so dojin yet. He remembers the days when he swung a sword for the sake of simple survival. Days, months, years passed like this, and 10 years flew by in the blink of an eye. With only a sword in his hands, he could defeat any monster. There was no fear in his heart. But one day, a villain appeared before him, much stronger than those he had already fought. He ordered him to surrender, because the world he lived in no longer exists. He was the main villain, guilty of everything, and MC looked at him with hatred. His opponent offered to be his sword so that such talent would not go to waste. But these words only angered him, and he rushed into battle with a loud cry. Noticing this, the villain punched forward, but MC flew past him, and his fingers were cut off. He immediately turned around, as did his opponent, and struck. Before the huge fist touched him, he managed to dodge to the side, but then a second blow followed. The villain attacked him and said that no matter how desperately he tried, to him he was nothing more than a pathetic bug. Feeling the pain, MC screamed in pain and then landed nearby. Immediately after that, he rushed towards his opponent at high speed, and he had already prepared his fist for the next attack. Before he could get close, the villain struck him, knocking him to the ground, but he was still able to fight. His gaze was caught by a shiny thing. It was a pendant with a crystal hanging on his neck. He realized what he needed to do, and before the enemy could strike, he swung and threw the blade with all his might at his chest. It flew through and broke the pendant. Then the villain became furious with rage, and the remains of the crystal began to glow, erasing the existence of this monster. When it disappeared, MC was finally able to allow himself to rest. He lay down on the ground and looked at the comet flying in the sky, thinking that the view was so beautiful. And after that, he found himself in Korea. He was currently walking along the street of the city. His destination was the Namsan C-Rank Gate. A loud sound and a warning voice were heard nearby. He needs to scan his hero registration number and unique identification number. If he is not a hero, then he should refrain from entering the gate. He froze in front of the gate that hid the portal. He unceremoniously kicked it down, and the siren immediately screamed, reporting danger. An unregistered hero broke into the gate with a fight. After that, he found himself in another world. Air, mana, nothing had changed here at all. He walked through the forest for a bit and came across a group of heroes who thought he was lost. Their leader said that they knew what happened to him, but they were leaving here anyway, so they could show him the way. He silently stared at them, and the girl from their team whispered to her comrade to look at how he was dressed. He agreed with her and noted that he did not look like a hero. As far as he knew, assistants did not have a specific uniform, but he came here looking like this. And what kind of backpack is he wearing? Maybe he was just a newbie who came here to accompany the heroes, and they abandoned him? Dojin finally spoke up. He said that he understood what he was talking about, but he just came here. The guy just realized that he was abandoned, and the leader said that he had met many people like him. He can guess what he was thinking when he went through the gate. If he watched a lot of hunting on the internet or TV and decided to try himself by coming here in slippers and shorts, then he will immediately tell him that this is fraught with a rapid fatal outcome. First, let him get a hero license, take a fighter course, and pass the exam. This gate is classified as C rank. For now, he should go to a lower rank gate. MC said that he appreciates their concern, but does not feel particularly grateful. They all fell silent from shock, after which they began to be indignant and were about to fight him. But their leader stopped them and said that if he did not listen to advice given out of sincere concern for his life, then he would have to experience everything on his own skin. He would understand that entering the gate is not as easy as watching a video. This place is harsh. Walking further through the forest, Dojin came across a huge orc, who, upon seeing him, began to blow steam from his mouth and loudly growl right in his face. After that, he punched, and MC just took a step back and dodged, after which he threw a displeased look at the monster and he struck with his weapon. But when he saw that the man had disappeared somewhere, he was very surprised, and Dojin was already very close at this time. He cut off the monster's head with just one punch of his fist, after which his body fell with a crash. And he landed nearby and thought that 10 years had passed, and there were no differences at all. He looked at the monster's body, especially his dagger. He looked at his reflection in the blade and thought about something, then went up to the body and started poking at the orc's neck with the tip. He pulled out a low-ranking magic stone. He wouldn't have even looked at such a trifle before, but now he needed it. While he was hiding the stone in his backpack, he heard footsteps behind him, Orcs ran up to him from behind and pounced on him. One of them swung his weapon, and he quickly crouched, then grabbed the crystal and threw it at one of the orcs, depriving him of his head. There were still 2 left. Because of the death of their comrade, they got angry and pounced on him all at once. Meanwhile, a group of heroes walked through the forest, and the girl said that she was still thinking about that fool in slippers. What if he really dies? The guy asked if she was really worried about him. Their leader said that if he was an intruder who had entered the gate without permission, then agents from the control center should have arrived right now. As he thought, the agents had already arrived, and they were quickly heading towards the intruder. The group leader said that this was a C-rank gate, so elite agents of B rank or higher should be sent here. Unless he was a psychopath and had not gotten into a fight with the monsters first, he would not die. She had nothing to worry about. The guy agreed with him and said that this idiot was probably shaking in fear right now, waiting for the agents to come and save him. But in reality, the monsters who were shaking in fear right now were the ones who dared to attack him. He punched one of them in the face, and the second orc, meanwhile, attacked him from behind. But MC was so fast that he disappeared from the spot in the blink of an eye and appeared behind the enemy. He kicked the monster in the head with his heel and it fell unconscious to the ground, after which Dojun picked up his sword and swung it, thinking that he could get 3 more magic stones from them. After he filled his backpack, he headed towards the exit and thought that the harvest here was extremely meager. So far, he has 12 low-ranking magic stones and 16 below average rank. At that moment, one of the agents just ran past him, noticing the intruder. He called the others and immediately heard the sound of footsteps. When MC turned around, he saw 4 agents standing in front of him, and one of them said that they were from the gate control center. Let him show his hero ID, and if he is not registered, then he will have to go with them to the control center. He did not understand what they were talking about, and the guy, already starting to lose patience, asked him to follow their instructions and not resist. Dojun thought what kind of idiots these were, then gave them a displeased look and headed for the exit, saying that they were bothering him. The leader of the agent group told his guys to get the handcuffs, and one of them asked Dojun not to interfere with the legal measures. If he does not cooperate, then they have the right to use necessary force. He looked at the handcuffs but did not move, and then the guy grabbed his hand and said that if some bodily harm was caused to him as a result of resistance, then it would be his fault alone. Going to the control center and solving this problem in a civilized manner would be the best option for him. MC did not let him finish and immediately grabbed his hand, freeing his own, making him surprised, and told them to stop bothering him and go back where they came from. Because of this, the agents got angry. They took out their batons and they sparked. These were level 4 magical defense devices. They can work on orcs or someone like that. Dojun twisted the agent's arm and said that this was the last warning. They should go back if they didn't want something more serious to happen. Then 2 agents rushed at him, but he blocked their baton blows and dodged the man's leg. He squeezed his leg at the knee and kicked the attacker in the side and kicked the other one aside. The last one remained, their leader. He looked at Dojun nervously, and when he met his gaze, he disappeared somewhere, which made him even more nervous. A second later, MC appeared next to him and immediately stabbed him in the chest. He coughed and stepped back, after which Dojun called out to him and asked which gate he entered. They would follow him everywhere? Unauthorized entry, and all that. He confirmed it and said that when an unregistered hero enters a gate without permission, a notification is automatically sent to the control center and a team of agents is dispatched to the scene. He asked if registered heroes have any problems with the law, right? The agent confirmed it. If they don't commit serious crimes inside, there is no reason to send agents to them. Then, MC asked what about the Rift Zone. These are passages to another world, from which monsters appear all over the planet. The artifacts obtained from the monsters are used here as a new energy resource. For this reason, the government carefully monitors these passages and keeps the monsters in the so-called gates. And the unknown places that have not yet been adapted for hunting are called Rift Zones here. The agent exclaimed that the Rift Zones couldn't be entered as easily as the gates, and the Hero Association wouldn't tolerate it. The MC appeared next to him in an instant and grabbed his face, asking what should he do then. The man became very nervous and thought that he was just crazy. He should have reported to the center from the very beginning that there was some crazy person here. After that, Dojun threw him aside and thought that he hadn't done anything special. He headed for the exit, and the man shouted after him that next time he would shoot him. But he didn't care. He remembered a moment from his past life when he dealt with an enemy. Hearing his voice breaking into a scream, he lost consciousness. He felt like something was sucking him in. It was death, or rather, he thought it was it. But when he opened his eyes, he found himself in the middle of the sky, and in front of him was a young man named Seo Dojun. He told him that he was dying. If he listened to his request, he would quietly disappear like this. But MC refused, which made the boy a little upset, and he explained his refusal by saying that he no longer had an attachment to life. After desperately fighting for 10 years, he was betrayed by a comrade he trusted, and his country was destroyed. His friends died, as well as his family. If life is so hard, then what is the meaning of it? Everything is the same for him, right? He told him that even if his life is like this, he would like his grandmother and his sister not to have to live like this. MC sighed heavily. He agreed to listen to his request, which made the boy happy, and then told him about his wish. And that's how MC ended up here. Currently, when he came out of the gate, he headed to the area that is now called the Hero Complex. Everything is so serious that artifact exchangers significantly outnumber IT companies. He walked along the streets of the city and noticed a very bright sign of the store, and decided to go inside. He was met by a guy behind the counter. When he found out that the customer wanted to sell some magic stones, he happily exclaimed that he came to the right place. They buy magic stones at the highest prices in Seoul, even in all of South Korea. After that, MC poured the stones on the table without further ado, and he, looking at them with disgust, thought that he could at least wipe the blood off them. He smiled nervously and noted that he had quite a lot of magic stones. Let him wait a little. They will make an appraisal. While he waits, would he like to drink coffee? Dojin sat down on the couch and told him that anything would suit him. And while he was enjoying the drink, the guy wiped the blood off the stones and at the same time calculated their cost in a calculator. In total, there are 12 low-ranking magic stones, 16 below average rank, and 5 stones of mixed ranks. The commission on the purchase price is 40%, so he will only get about 5.5 million won. MC, of course, did not like this, and immediately approached the guy, asking, he was hunting, and they just sell stones and take a 40% commission? The seller smirked and said that he saw that he was not from around here. Usually they take a 45% commission, but theirs is reduced. If he does not want to sell, then let him take it all back. No matter where he goes, he will not get a better price than theirs. Dojin began to put the magic stones back in the bag, but the guy grabbed him and said that first he needs to pay a fee for the appraisal, and the coffee is not free either. A total of 300,000 won for the labor and 10,000 for the coffee. But since they did not use expensive towels to clean the stones from blood, if he paid them 350,000 won, including the cost of the towel, it will be enough. MC pulled his hand out of his grip and told him that he had no money. Then the guy grinned nastily and asked, he knows that he needs to pay, right? There are several C-rank heroes standing behind them. After that, 3 huge men came out of the staff room, and one of them asked why he called them. Is there someone here who doesn't want to pay again? He met Dojin's serious gaze and realized that that someone was him. After that, a fight began. The guy was shaking with fear and hiding behind the table, and his defenders were thrown in all directions. Finally, having defeated the last hero, MC emerged victorious from this fight. He dusted off his hands and approached the seller, saying that he only agreed to a 1% commission and they would conduct the sale properly. When he received his money, he left the store, telling the seller that he would come back here again, and then returned home. He threw a wad of money in front of his family, who were shocked at the sight of it. His grandmother took it and asked him in surprise, where did he get so much money? He smiled nervously and lied to her, saying that he once lent money to a friend who was building his own business, and that the business turned out to be very successful. His grandmother was surprised that he had such a friend, and he said that she remembered where he grew up. That was when he started talking to him. She looked at the money with doubt, and then his sister Lee Yoon-young happily exclaimed, "Does that mean they are rich now?" He patted her on the head and confirmed it, after which she began to happily run around her grandmother and jump, shouting that they were finally rich. Looking at her, Dojin remembered the request of the body's owner. He asked him to make it so that his family could live in safety. And then he disappeared without even waiting for his answer. He looked in the mirror and thought that when he woke up, he became Seo Dojin. At the moment, the safest house in South Korea costs at least 11 billion won. Of course, he doesn't have to keep this promise, but when his power returns, this amount of money will seem insignificant to him. The rift, the gate, the monsters. Everything here is weaker than the world he lost. For him, who was once a sword god, this world is just a playground. However, he hasn't even regained a tenth of his full strength yet. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door and someone's voice asking if Dojin was home. He told his grandmother that he would go see who it was, and when he opened the door, he saw loan sharks coming for money. He owed them a whopping 48 million won. He closed his eyes and sighed heavily, thinking that these loan sharks had lent the money to the real Dojin before he died. The 5 million he took to pay his grandmother's medical bills instantly grew into an amount 10 times that amount. The huge guy asked, he went to the gate and earned money there, right? They will take everything, according to the contract. His partner said that it was just business, and then the MC punched his friend in the face, sending him flying a few meters away. His friend turned around in shock, not understanding what just happened, and the MC said that he had already given them more than 9 million won, so they owed him. The guy got nervous and asked if he was really Seo Dojin. He didn't answer that question and told him to tell his boss that he would visit him soon, then punched him too. Time passed and he went with his sister to spend money at the mall. They entered the toy section and she looked at the teddy bears and asked with a smile if she could really buy these. He confirmed it and said that they had bought clothes, so now it was her turn to choose whatever she wanted. He looked at her with a smile and thought that he had inherited all the memories of the body's owner, and this somewhat revived his frozen heart. For now, it's just affection. But he was even kind to Yoon, his half-sister. They had the same mother, but different fathers. He wants to protect this innocent child's soul. She finally chose a toy for herself and showing him a plush bunny, asked if she could have it. He took a huge plush bear from the shelf and reminded her with a smile that he told her to choose whatever she wanted, and she smiled widely in response. After that, they went to get a snack. Yoon was happy with fries and a burger, but he got something stronger. While they were eating, a girl, his half-sister, came up to them. But she wasn't alone, she was with some men in suits, probably security guards. She smirked and asked why he was dressed like that. He didn't look like anyone special at all. And who was with him? Did she also do bad things like his mother? These words made him angry and the atmosphere between them became tense. Yoon, unsuspecting, continued eating her burger and thought, who is she? Then the girl approached Yoon and asked her name, and when she found out that her last name was Lee, she noticed how she was dressed and called her a little fool. She was just like her mother. She looked at Dojin with a smile and asked, she was right, right? He remained silent, holding back his anger, and she asked why he suddenly became quiet. After looking at him, she frowned and then called out to Yoon and called her mother a dirty woman. Then the MC couldn't take it anymore and said with all the anger in his voice that she was ugly as an orc. Not expecting this from him, she turned to him in shock and saw his angry expression. Seo Dojin was an illegitimate son. He lived in poverty. His mother died when he was 7 years old, and his father reluctantly let him into his new family. He lived for 10 years, enduring neglect and insults. After his stepmother gave birth to a son, he was made to understand that he was superfluous in this family and kicked out. Thus, he was forced to move in with his maternal grandmother and his half-sister, whom he met for the first time in his life. And how did Dojin's tormented heart endure all this? He decided that things would be different now and told the girl that they had lived together for 12 years, but she was still just as disgusting. Not only did she have a face like a brick crushed under her, but she also had a terrible personality. In addition, she was so stupid that she dropped out of school. She also had a monstrous inferiority complex towards women who were prettier and kinder than her. She had no reason to be superior to this girl who cared for her older brother. He spoke so loudly that he attracted the attention of everyone around him. He confidently looked into her eyes, waiting for an answer, and she grimaced in anger, telling him to repeat what he said. Then her mother, Hong Haeju, appeared, calling out to Dojin and saying that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, and her daughter immediately climbed into her arms and began to complain to her with tears in her eyes. She ordered her to stop and whispered in displeasure, asking how she could behave so uncultured. She forced a smile on her face and asked Dojin how he was doing. She knew he was busy, but it would be nice if he stopped by the house sometimes. He mentally called her a lying witch. After all, she had been tormenting him for 12 years. Haeju said that his father was so worried about him, but he cut her off and said that he was going to throw up. They were nothing to each other, and he wasn't in the mood to talk about personal things with strangers. So, let her go. She looked into his eyes with a dark expression before turning around and walking away, wondering if he was really the Dojin she knew. She used to hit him for no reason, and he just kept his eyes down and said nothing. Her daughter ran after her, asking her to go together, and the MC watched them go before telling Yoon that they had to go. He thought that Seo Dojin, who would not say a word in response and would meekly endure all insults, no longer existed. It would be better if she realized it quickly. Time passed. Haeju was heading home with her daughter, and she asked her why she left and did not do anything to him. She was supposed to crush this idiot. Does she know what he told her? She did not listen to her daughter's whining and called out to manager Lee, asking dissatisfiedly why Dojin was still alive. The man scratched his bald head in confusion and said that Kang Chol-woo reported to him that he definitely escorted him to the gate and left him there. She exclaimed that that was not the question. Why is the idiot who was supposed to die still breathing? He apologized to her and said that he would find out what went wrong, and then her daughter looked at her in shock and asked, what did this mean? She remained silent, and she called out to her indignantly, asking her again what she meant. Haeju remained silent and looked out the window, and she exclaimed in rage, what the hell was she doing? Was she trying to kill him? Then her mother asked if she still liked him. Her face immediately turned red, and she began to deny everything, and said that if her grandfather or father found out about this, it would be bad. Haeju immediately shut her up, and threateningly said that she would deal with this, so let her mind her own business. Her daughter trembled with fear and cried, and all she could think about was that this idiot dared to be rude to her, so she would get rid of him, no matter what it cost her. A new day came, MC went somewhere and thought about the structure of this world. 10 years ago, rift zones appeared, monsters came out of them and started killing people. The world was plunged into absolute chaos, but with the advent of heroes, it was quickly subdued, and now they can get magic stones from monsters. When magic stones became a new source of energy, the countries of the world cooperated to turn rifts into gates, and now the entire industry revolves around gates and heroes. In other words, now in order to earn money, you need to become a hero. The taxi dropped him off at a large building. Walking a little further, he reached the place where the loan shark company was located. He went inside, went up to the top floor, where their boss, Wang Changxiap, and his subordinates, beaten by Dojun's hands, were sitting. The man asked him what he was doing here. He beat up his guys, and now he still came here? MC sat in the chair opposite him and said that his impudence surprised him. He was entitled to compensation for moral, physical, and material damage received due to their fault. After listening to him speak, Changxiap thought that he used to be such an obedient guy, but now, judging by the way he beat his guys, apparently the boy was in the gate and experienced awakening. He loomed over him menacingly and asked, since he was awake, he thought he could talk to him like that? Maybe he wanted to see what happens to those who awaken and start acting up? Then a few guys came into the room and surrounded Dojun, and their boss gathered his things and said that there were some arrogant heroes who awakened at D rank. And his guys could easily show the especially frisky ones with a low rank how things are here. MC began to lose patience and ordered the man to sit down. He had not finished speaking yet. Hearing how disrespectfully he treated their boss, one of the thugs pounced on him, and Dojun took off his glasses and then hit him in the face with all his might, causing him to fly several meters away. After that, he started beating up all the guys around and asked, they don't only do loan sharking, right? He knows they also forge documents. He needs a hero ID to make money. After punching a guy in the jaw, he pounced on the next guy and dodged his punch, hitting him back easily, knocking him to the floor. After that, he told their boss to make him a perfect document immediately so that he won't have any problems in the future. The deadline is tomorrow. The loan sharks and Changxiap got nervous. They were all thinking now, what kind of power is this? He's definitely not a low rank. He must be B rank. MC demanded an answer, and Changxiap stood at attention, saying that they will do everything. And then he remembered something, put his hand on his shoulder and threateningly asked, was it Hiju who gave him the order to kill him? The man remembered about that evil woman, and the MC squeezed his shoulder harder, demanding an answer, which made him scream in pain. His subordinates became nervous, and he said that this woman wanted them to finish him off with debts so that he would end himself. He howled in pain and asked him to let him go, after which Dojun unclenched his hand and asked if he was the one who locked him in the gate. Changxiop smiled nervously and said that he didn't know anything about it. He swore that he wasn't lying, and said that if he died, he wouldn't get money from him, so he definitely wouldn't send him to the gate. Because of his words, the MC thought about it, after which he said that it was Kang Cholwu. He brought him to the gate. Let him get information about him by tomorrow. The man agreed, and he left, after which he remembered the request of the body's owner, and thought that as long as he was here, he would figure everything out. When the hero card was finally ready, he went into the gate and put the card on the reader, and the doors opened in front of him. The gate system informed him that his rank was below the recommended one. This gate might be dangerous, so he should think again before entering it. He looked at his card and thought that idiot should have given him an A rank instead of a B. He headed towards the gate, with the warnings constantly repeating. This is the Bamsong Gate. Rank B, Scale D. Terrain is a tunnel. The recommended rank is A. Entry is limited to 2 people. Since this is a B rank gate, the scale of D rank makes it difficult to clear alone. Also, because the tunnel format is meant to be cleared alone, this gate is hard to clear unless the hero is rank A or higher. If the hero is really unlucky, he will have to face hundreds of monsters in a dark, cramped tunnel. As he walked further, he found something that made him grin. There was a huge snake in front of him, and he immediately pulled out his sword, smiling and rushing into battle, because he really liked this. But the snake was not alone. 3 monsters immediately pounced on Dojun and released their sharp tongues at him. But as soon as he made one lunge forward, he killed one of them and took the magic stone. The other snake began to secrete a green liquid. This is a black deadly viper, a snake with poison that causes paralysis even if it penetrates through a small scratch. Having landed, MC turned sharply and then rushed towards the snake and delivered many quick blows, eventually cutting the monster's body in half. His glove got poisoned, but it remained intact, and he thought that it was not in vain that he paid 300,000 for this. He heard a hissing behind him, and when he turned around, he saw a flock of snakes quickly approaching him. He grabbed the monster with both hands and squeezed it tighter, and when only pieces remained of the snake, he moved on to the next enemy, and poison began to spurt in all directions. Finally, he dealt with all the monsters around and began to check their bodies for magic stones. But there was no loot at all. He thought that if everything was the same as in the previous world, then the probability of getting magic stones from a black deadly viper was about 3%. Realizing that he would have to kill several hundred monsters, he headed for the exit. But in the end, he came out in a completely different place than he expected. Seeing the skeletons of the heroes next to the door, he realized that this was not the exit. And when he raised his head, he met the gaze of a huge snake. Realizing that this was the boss, he immediately dropped his backpack and pounced on him with the thought that he did not know where he needed to go. But everything turned out very well. He struck and something happened that he did not expect. A pain ran down his arm, and only a small depression remained at the place of the blow. The armor of this snake was very strong. He decided to quickly finish it off and go back, but did not notice the sudden attack of the enemy. Because he did not have time to react, he was thrown to the side and he hit his back on a stone. Without wasting a second, the snake pounced on him, but he managed to recover from such a blow in time and jumped to the side. As soon as his foot touched the ground, he pushed off and rushed forward, striking the snake with all his strength, but this only left cracks in his armor. He looked up at his opponent and thought, is blows nothing to him? As he thought, he is on a completely different level compared to those snakes he fought inside the tunnel. The scales are tough, so ordinary fists will not help here. What should he do? If only he returned his former strength, he would have dealt with him long ago. He wanted to take a step back, but he felt his foot bumping into something. He turned around, and next to him, the sword of the dead hero was stuck in the ground. After thinking for a while, he took it. Although the weapon was old, he had no other choice. No matter how ancient the sword, everything depends on its owner. He headed towards the snake, telling the dead man that he would borrow it from him for a while. And when the monster headed towards him with its mouth wide open, he disappeared from the spot and appeared in the air. Heading towards the monster, he told it to consider it an honor that he would personally tear it to pieces. After which he clutched the sword tighter and rushed towards his opponent. When they collided, there was a bright flash, from which Dojun flew out with a broken sword. When he landed, the snake fell dead, and he breathed a sigh of relief, and thought that it would have been very unpleasant if this blow had not been enough. After that, he approached the snake and, having pulled out its fang, thought that it was a bit short for a longsword. But if he worked on it a little, it would turn into a quite formidable weapon. It seemed that he could earn more here than in Namsan, so he was even lucky. Now he really went to the exit and came out of the gate only when night fell. He could not imagine that clearing one B-rank gate would take him so much time. But restoring his strength was the main priority. He looked at the night sky and, remembering his old comrades, was even glad that they did not see him in such a deplorable shape. After a while, the man brought the magic stones and put them on the counter. The guy said he had collected a lot of good magic stones. The commission would be 40% as usual. The man looked at him incredulously and asked, "Isn't that too much? He is their frequent customer. Can't they give him a discount?" The guy sighed and said, he knows perfectly well that their commission is the lowest among competitors, right? The basic commission at the center of the gate alone is 5%, and they don't keep transaction records so that customers don't have to pay taxes. Given all of the above, they can make clean deals with a commission at such a level that it's even profitable for them. The man took the money and said, "Okay. By the way, why is his face like that?" The guy spread his arms in different directions and asked not to even ask. One psycho came and beat the security half to death, and he got it too. The man said in surprise, "Wow, he thinks they're used to the fact that C-rank security is enough for their establishment. That's why he says that when choosing security, they need to look not at rank, but at skills. Ranks are invented for the convenience of the state. Real skills are a different matter. It is a mistake to think that rank equals skill. A security guard who just passed certification and watches over a store, and a hero who risked his life hunting monsters cannot have similar skills." The guy thought discontentedly, if he has everything, then he should leave his teachings and better go his own way. The man laughed and said that they have known each other for more than a day or two, so they should call if they need his help. He started to leave, and at that moment MC entered inside. The guy pointed his finger at him in fear and screamed, It is him, the idiot who beat him up." The man turned around and asked, "Is it him? Did this tall and handsome guy really make a mess here?" He started to warm up his fists and asked, "Was it him who made a mess here? What's the point of being a hero if he beats up innocent people? Doesn't he know that heroes aren't supposed to touch civilians?" The guy smirked and thought, he's a hero with 7 years of experience. He knows a lot of old and new heroes, so if he decides to cause trouble again. Dojin turned around and told him to get lost and mind his own business. The man's eyes widened in irritation, and MC asked, "Does he want to avenge him?" The man screamed, "What an idiot he is." He froze and thought, right, the most common cause of death for heroes is not monsters, but fights with other heroes. His 7-year hero instincts were activated. The man turned away and said, "See you next time." He has things to do, so he has to leave. The guy looked after him in surprise, and MC asked, does he think he has too many complaints against him? He threw the backpack to the side and ordered him to count. The guy thought in surprise, this can't be. High-level magic stones? Who the hell is he? After a while, the guy said that the final amount was 150 million won. Dojun thought, he hunted all day and only earned 150 million? He ordered to bring 150 million here. The guy said no, he needs to deduct the commission. He looked at MC's displeased face with fear and thought, did he say something wrong? Dojun folded his arms across his chest and said with a smirk, yes, the commission is 1%. Then it will come to 148.5 million. Let him bring it here. The guy imagined him calling him an idiot and yelling 40% commission. He still didn't get it. He said, well, for transactions over 100 million, they need to get permission from the management. MC displeasedly ordered him to get it, and immediately. The guy dialed the number on the phone and put his hand to his lips and said, yes, boss. That's what happened. Suddenly Dojun snatched the phone from his hands and asked, did he understand everything? He ordered the manager to tell him to bring him the money. The manager thoughtfully replied that he understood now. He asked to pass the phone to his employee. The MC threw the phone in his direction and broke the wall with it. He spoke, his boss said that he understood everything. Dojun ordered to quickly give him the money. The guy said fearfully, yes. He put the money in bags and gave it to the MC. Dojun headed for the exit and suggested that they make the deal without problems next time. The guy stood with his back to him and thought, they have never made this without problems. 10 minutes later, the manager ran into the store and shouted, why isn't he picking up the phone? And what kind of call was that? The guy turned around and said, boss, he wants to quit. He can't take it anymore. The boss looked at the phone that was plugged into the wall and frowned. He took out his phone and called Juyeon. He said that it was him and said that he needed her here. She was walking down the street and people opened their mouths with delight. Voices were heard from all around. Wow, isn't that Hyun Juyeon? It's really her. Juyeon entered the store and the guy said, welcome. Suddenly he shouted loudly, Miss Hyun Juyeon? She smiled and winked, lifting her glasses. She said, yes, she is Hyun Juyeon. The guy's eyes widened and thought, the 4th S-rank hero of Korea, Hyun Juyeon. He heard she was his boss's niece, but why did she come here? Juyeon said that because of the hero who extorts money without commission, her uncle has a headache. She sat down and asked, so, can you tell me more? After a while, MC was sitting in the yard of the house, and behind him, Yoon was playing with her new toys. Even if he hunted all day long, Dojun had barely earned 100 million. This pace is too slow. He needs to start hunting alone in the S-rank gate as soon as possible. For this, it is necessary to immediately restore the former strength. But, unlike the previous world, in this atmosphere, mana is nowhere to be found. If MC were to gather mana like this every day, the process would take 3 years? No, maybe even more. It would be nice to master good weapons and equipment. However, in this world, even terrible equipment costs hundreds of millions. Suddenly, MC's eyes widened, and he rushed towards Yoon. He grabbed her and said, Yoon, she needs to go inside. Grandma came out into the hallway and asked, what happened, Dojun? At that moment, everything around started shaking, and Grandma screamed, oh my god, an earthquake? It's an earthquake. Dojun hugged his sister and thought, it's not an earthquake, it's most likely a fault. He handed his sister to Grandma, who screamed, Dojun, what's going on? He headed towards the exit and ordered them not to go out. It's dangerous outside. He headed towards the fault and jumped into the crack. He heard the cries of his family after him, Dojun. At that moment, an employee at the Hero Association in Seoul spoke. The leader of the group. A new rift was discovered in Mappo. The leader grabbed his head and said, after 63 days, a new rift. He waved his hand and shouted, if it is in Mappo, the White Lion Guild is closest. He ordered to contact them immediately and urgently send other heroes nearby. The leader approached the employees and asked where the location of the rift was recorded. The guy answered, in the courtyard of a residential building. The leader asked again, at home? This is problematic. If an ordinary person enters the new rift, it will become impossible for others to enter it until he leaves. He grabbed his head and thought, and if he dies, the waves of monsters will not stop for 10 days. He imagined a huge number of monsters and thought, if that happens, then all of Seoul. The leader asked, have they identified the one who entered there? The employee answered, the name is Seo Dojun. He lives in the house where the rift zone appeared. The leader spoke, and according to his grandmother's statement, he entered the rift zone trying to save his little sister. So, he's probably not a hero. What are the chances of a wave of monsters appearing when an ordinary citizen enters a new rift? The guy looked at him carefully and answered, almost 100%. After a while, Manager Lee threw the papers on the table, and Hoju asked again, awakening? What do you mean? Dojun awakened. Lee answered, although he has not yet registered with the Hero Association. He has no doubt that he awakened last time in the gate. Hoju screamed in displeasure, what did that idiot Kang Cholwoo do? He was supposed to kill that bastard. Why make things so complicated? She slammed her fist on the table and screamed, and on top of that, charge money for it. Manager Lee, have him tell that idiot Kang Cholwoo if he can't kill Dojun, he'll pay 10 times the amount he took. Manager Lee replied, he doubted that he would be able to contact him. Heju asked again, what was he talking about? Lee replied, a new rift had appeared in Mappo, or more precisely, in Dojun's house. They also confirmed that Dojin had entered that rift. The media would report on it soon. Hiju asked thoughtfully, "So that means they won't see that lowly creature anymore?" The manager replied, "Yes, that's right." Hiju asked him to keep watching until he was completely sure. The manager replied, "Yes, sir." At that moment, MC was walking through the forest and couldn't believe it. This was the same pâtissier forest he often walked in as a child. The shape of the forest, the trees, the grass, and of course the wind. The atmosphere, rich in mana, even the appearance of the sky and clouds, everything was identical. If the exit is at the end of this path. Dojin smiled and said as he thought, "The world tree, it is an ancient sacred tree from which a stream of pure mana flows." The reason why the MC world was destroyed was because this tree was burned and the source of mana was lost. It is still intact. Dojin doesn't understand why, but he can bring back the mana from that time. He clenched his fist and entered the tree's portal. He sat down and began to breathe loudly. A day, 2, 3 days, forgetting even about food and water, he concentrated only on breathing for 10 days. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, "Vulcan." He turned around and thought, these are the creatures that burned the world tree in the past. The monsters rushed towards him, and he looked at his hands and thought, it would be really nice to have a sword with a water attribute on him now, but it doesn't matter. He will crush them all into pieces. MC sent mana through his body and extended his hand forward. He directed the energy flow towards the creatures and thought, releasing mana is the accumulation of mana in the form of chi and the subsequent explosion. He exhaled and thought that it had been a long time since he spilled so much mana. Dojin let the mana in and said that he had confirmed the safety of the world tree. Now, perhaps, he would test his mana in action. The monsters opened their toothy mouths and extended their thin arms, but MC directed an energy flow towards them. It hit the monsters' bodies and knocked out the magic stones from them. Dojin said, "The test is complete. If he deals with them, then he can also obtain the eternal sparks." He thought that from what he remembered, the probability of this was high. I wonder how many of them will come out? He headed towards the rest of the monsters and began to strike them. After a while, the MC walked up to the tree and put the magic stones together, and a spark appeared in the center. He clenched his fist and thought happily, eternal sparks, to think he got them again. He activated the mana of the eternal sparks and thought that he would like to get more mana from the world tree, but it would be too much for his body. But now he can absorb these sparks and change his mana to the fire attribute. In the past, these sparks were of no use to him at all, but now he needs a whole 10 minutes to absorb one. Dojin looked down at the magic stones and thought, he will absorb as many as he can. After a while, people and reporters were standing near the rift. Bang Songwoo clenched his jaw in irritation and said, "Damn it, why did this happen because of one idiot?" Kim Hyunwoo looked at his watch and said he was trying to save his sister. Songwoo replied, "It's as they say." He went there without thinking about the others because of rumors that it was easy to awake in the rift zone. If he wants to die, let him die alone. Why should he cause trouble for everyone? Inwoo looked at him and asked what Gilma Hyun was saying. Sungwoo replied irritably. He was reciting instructions, saying that we need to prepare for an influx of monsters, but why? Hyunwoo said, apparently, rifts also appeared simultaneously in the United States, China, Great Britain, Turkey, and Switzerland. Then it's no wonder that Gilma Hyun looks overloaded with work. This is the first time something like this has happened. But they say that those places have already been taken under control. Sungwoo frowned and said, they were the only ones who screwed up, because of some psycho. The idiot who went into the rift, let him come out already. He'll peel his skin off. After some time, the TV reported that 28 days had passed since the appearance of a new rift. The Hero Association announced the first level of danger of the monster wave, in case Mr. S, who entered the rift first, doesn't come out within the next 2 days. Changsep turned off the broadcast and asked, is this Mr. S that's so Dojin? Kim Yong-gu, Huang Changsep's assistant, answered, yes. His subordinates confirmed it. It is definitely so Dojin. Changsep asked what he thought the probability was that he would come back at all. Yong-gu spread his arms in different directions and answered, if he is not a hero, there is nothing to talk about. The probability is 1%. No, not even 1/10%. Changsep smiled, baring his teeth, and asked, not a hero? What nonsense. Those idiots at the Hero Association lack information, which is why they are very wrong. What if he is awakened? Yong-gu answered, in that case, it all depends on what rank he is. Honestly, even he has a hard time finding out right now. Changsep leaned back in his chair and said, exactly. Fighting well and surviving in a rift are two different skills. That idiot Sodojin has 2 relatives, right? Need to protect them. Changsep asked what they were going to do. Yong-gu replied, for now, he wanted to treat them well. Changsep said, if he died, they would sell his family members to the Black Bandits. But if he came back alive, they would tell him that they took care of them, and they would make him their debtor. After a while, MC spread his mana near the tree and thought how much time had passed. Eternal sparks, he absorbed hundreds of them. Now, he can use fire attribute mana whenever he wants. His fire resistance has also increased by a lot. In terms of fire attribute alone, he is now more powerful than when he was called the Sword God. He touched the tree with his hand and said, "For the past and present, thank you to this world tree." Dojin reached out to gather the stones into a net and said, he doesn't know if he'll see it again, but if their meeting happens and it's in danger, he'll protect the tree at all costs. He got ready and walked out of the rift, and then looked around and thought, not a single person within a kilometer radius. Did everyone evacuate due to the possibility of a monster wave? He feels some strange aura in that direction. MC threw the bag of stones on his back and ran there. He ran to the building and looked around the corner where he saw the guys. He thought, judging by their clothes, they look like the ones who came for him on his first visit to the gate. If he gets discovered, he'll be in trouble. He activated his mana and pointed it towards the store sign that blew up. Hyunwoo screamed in fear. What? What's that sound? Sungwoo replied, fire, there's a fire. Hyunwoo headed towards the building, and then Sungwoo asked, horror. Where did the fire come from? MC looked at the fire and thought, both the nature of the flame and the accuracy of the throw are good. Biter, even he wouldn't admire this flame? He would be delighted. After all, he is the strongest fire mage on the continent. Suddenly, Hyunwoo ordered to stop and turned around and said that the rift was strange. Sungwoo asked what he was talking about. The rift began to shrink before their eyes, and when the guys ran to this place, it almost disappeared. Sungwoo screamed, what? The rift is disappearing. At this moment, MC was climbing the stairs, throwing the net over his shoulder. He turned around and looked back. In the morning, the news reported breaking news. A new rift that appeared in Mappo disappeared today at sunset. Exactly 29 days have passed since Mr. S entered the Rift Zone, and the Hero Association, expecting a wave of monsters to appear, is surprised by the unexpected disappearance and began a thorough investigation. Meanwhile, a fire of unknown origin broke out at the dump next to the rift. The townspeople were watching the news on the street and talking. That gentleman entered the rift and died, right? Someone answered, he deserved to die. Everyone knows that you can't walk near rifts, the man asked. The man died. Why is he saying such a thing? This is complete nonsense. If the rift hadn't disappeared, Seoul would have turned into a battlefield. MC was walking down the street and thinking, if this disappeared, he would never see the world tree again. It was a shame, but there were some upsides to it. He looked up and said, after all, there are those he needs to protect. He was standing near the building and looking at the sign. He went inside and heard two scoundrels talking. The man took a drag on his cigarette and said, that idiot died. So you don't have to stand on ceremony with the old woman and her granddaughter anymore. The guy answered, of course. Is their boss an ordinary person? He will squeeze at least 10 times more out of them. The man lit a cigarette again and said, girl could be a beauty when she grows up. The boss will probably figure out how to take advantage of her to his heart's content. At that moment, the MC called out to them and asked, where is their boss? At that moment, Changshuk got out of the car and started humming a tune. He fixed his hair and laughed, saying that now that that idiot was dead, he could finally sleep peacefully. Manager Kim, what's his schedule for today? Ongu opened his notebook and replied, he had lunch with Representative Baek, no plans for dinner. Changshuk adjusted his glasses and asked, is that true? He said to contact Madam Kang then, and tell her he'll be by tonight. If there are any new girls, he should tell them to dress up nicely. Yongu replied, yes. After a while, they arrived at the place and started climbing the stairs. Changsup's eyes widened in surprise when he saw a man flying past and blood splattering in front of him. MC pushed him to the floor and then ordered him to crawl here like a dog. He sat down at the table and put his feet on it. He asked again, can't you hear him? Changsup got on all fours and Dojin ordered him to bark. A dog like him doesn't deserve human treatment. He ordered to bark like a dog. Changsup started to bark loudly, drooling in all directions. The boys were facing the wall and the MC ordered them to bark louder. He ordered them to obey any of his orders, as if he had taken away their kidneys and gallbladders. But at any moment that seemed convenient to them, they would stab him in the back, the disgusting assholes. Wang Changsup, does he think he has never put scumbags like him in their place before? Changsup bowed and begged for mercy. He will be loyal like a dog. MC kicked him in the head and ordered him to shut up. Changsup flew back and hit his head on the floor, and Dojin turned to the Four Eyes guy. He said, from now on, he is the boss. No need to work like a dog for this animal. Even getting rid of their superiors won't help them? He gives them his permission. Yongu bowed and said, his boss is well connected. If he suddenly takes over, won't people think it's weird? Please don't do that. He asked to spare his boss just this once. MC asked, why is he arguing like that? He's an expert at drowning people in the sea or throwing them into a garbage compactor, right? If they don't want anything to do with him, he'll just throw him out the gate to be eaten by monsters. Chun-sung bowed again and asked to spare his life. Please. He will work all his life, like his loyal dog. He begs, he pleads with him. Dojin turned away and thought, he should get rid of Huang Chengxiup now to avoid future problems. He sighed and said, he's become too merciful. He extended his hand to Chengxiup, who looked at him in surprise. He asked to forgive him for everything and extended his hand in return. From now on, he will serve him faithfully. He froze and looked at his hand, which was covered in fire. He started screaming loudly, and MC said that this was his last chance. He waved his hand and cut off Chengxiap's hand. He started screaming loudly in pain, and Dojin turned around and said that from now on, if even one scratch appears on his family, he will destroy them all. He ordered them to take responsibility and protect them every day, every second for the rest of their lives. Dojin was officially considered missing in the disappeared rift. The government, the Hero Association, and all other media treated Dojin as if he was dead. MC was sitting at a table in a cafe and looking at his photo. He thought that if he said that he came back alive, it would only cause trouble. Wang Changshop will soon find a new home and they will move in peacefully. Young was eating a burger and laughing lightly. She said she likes it. They are moving. MC replied that now she will be able to go to kindergarten with other children and go to school next year. Young hung her head sadly, and Dojin asked excitedly, "What's wrong? Does she not like kindergarten?" Young replied, "Yeah, the kids tease her for not having a mom and dad." The MC pursed his lips and said, "It's okay, she doesn't have to go there. There's no need to see those little idiots' faces." He suggested she go straight to school next year. Young let out a surprised cry. "Really? Does she not have to go to kindergarten?" The MC replied, "No, she doesn't have to." He wondered, should he send her to a prestigious private school so no one would look down on her? You remember Dojin asking, is he suggesting an old man and a little girl to live in a hotel? Is he completely brainless? Iangu replied fearfully, "Their company runs this hotel, so it's for safety reasons." The MC told him to forget about it. He walked into the room and Young screamed loudly, "Oppa!" She ran into his arms and Grandma stood up and held his hand. She said, "He came back alive, Dojin." Young hugged him and shouted, "Oppa!" MC smiled and replied, "Yes, he survived." In the present, she slightly tilted her head and asked, "Is he a hero too?" Dojin smiled and asked, "So what? Would she like him to be a hero?" Young replied, "No, she wouldn't." He asked, "Why?" Young spoke, "Heroes fight scary monsters and sometimes die. She and Grandma, they want him to be with them forever." MC sighed sadly and she asked, "Oppa?" Dojin thought, "They want him to be with them forever." Even in the cruel world of the past, he was a person who survived until the very end. He lost a lot during the endless fight against monsters. Something precious that he had forgotten appeared in his life again. In this world, he thinks that he can live by protecting his little happiness. After some time in South Korea, at the Hero Association, Nat Tae-hwang, the founder of the South Korean Heroes Association, director of the World Hero Federation, asked, "Will they not be able to find out anything?" The assistant replied, "Yes. At the moment, they cannot determine anything." She asked for forgiveness, and Tae-hwang said, "What a disappointment. The rift that disappeared on its own may open again one day." The assistant agreed and said, "The variables are dangerous. It would be much better if a wave of monsters fell." Tae-hwang interrupted her and ordered her to think about what she was saying. If they take into account the safety of civilians, this outcome is much more desirable. The assistant apologized and said that she had expressed herself incorrectly. Nat Tae-hwang, he is one of the 100 most respected heroes on the planet. If he decided to become president, he would be elected with the highest percentage of votes in human history. And if he wanted to, he could easily overthrow domestic conglomerates, but he is not interested in the presidency or the conglomerates, only in the safety of the people and the readiness to deal with the dangers posed by the rifts. Tae-hwang ordered the assistant to investigate everything thoroughly, even if it takes time. The assistant replied as he says, "And one more thing, the rift resident agreed to sell." Tae-hwang asked again, "Is that so?" "That's very good." He ordered to pay him above the market price so that he would not feel robbed. He wants to be given at least some consolation after losing a family member. He opened his laptop and looked at the map thoughtfully, saying that the rift has appeared in other countries at the same time. "This is unusual." The assistant asked, "Haven't the US and China entered the control phase already?" Tae-hwang replied, "The problem is in England. Reliable heroes have been sent to other rifts." At that moment, he received a notification and screamed, "This can't be." The assistant asked, "Is something wrong?" He screamed, "The rift is in England." After a while, MC was walking down the street in a hoodie. He entered the exchanger and the guy said, "Welcome." He saw Dojin's face and shouted loudly, "Manager, that idiot, is it him?" The manager folded the newspaper and asked, "Who is him? Is it him? The person forcing people to sell magic stones without commission in his absence?" MC said, "Great, he just brought a lot of stones to sell and was hoping that someone from the big guys would be here to quickly make the deal." He threw his backpack on the floor, and the manager thought, he guesses he brought a bunch of low-ranking stones without processing like last time. He said they won't do business with him. He asked him to leave, and Dojin asked, "They won't do business." The manager turned away and said he didn't think he understood, but a 1% commission is a loss for them. They won't do business with him anymore, so he should take his bag and leave. The protagonist said that they would regret it. The manager grabbed his head and said, he doesn't listen to reason. There's a reason why even the gate center takes a 5% commission. The distribution structure of the magic stones, no, he doesn't need an explanation. He turned around and ordered them to take this, leave immediately, and never come back. MC kicked the backpack from which the magic stones flew out, which shocked the guys. The manager looked at it and thought, could these be the hero's magic stones? Where did he get the priceless hero's magic stones? MC folded his arms and replied, if they don't need it, then let them forget it. The hero's magic stone. Curzamon, a famous merchant in Mexico, he bought magic stones to use in the production of substances, and one day the ability of the magic stone manifested itself and he awakened as a hero. From that day on, this magic stone became known as an important item for awakening a hero or enhancing magical power. This stone, nicknamed the hero's magic stone, is a powerful source of energy, extremely expensive because of how difficult it is to obtain. The employee and the manager froze in surprise, their mouths open, and Dojin ordered them to put the stones in a bag. He was leaving. The manager ran up to him and said, customer, could he sit down and wait for a while? After a while, the employee was polishing the stones, and Dojin was sitting and drinking a glass of soda. The manager apologized and asked, doesn't he think that a commission of 0.5% is excessive? MC frowned and said if he doesn't like it, he will go. The manager yelled, it's not that he doesn't like it. He was just wondering why he wanted to lower it to that percentage. Dojin replied because they made him angry. The manager jumped up from his seat and yelled, he's so sorry. He acted thoughtlessly. MC said that he was already tired of listening to apologies. He asked him to just say whether he would adjust the commission or not. The employee thought irritably, horror, this idiot. He is just an uncouth bore. The manager was on his knees and said, okay. These magic stones are so valuable that some companies are able to buy it from him without any commission, however. He continued to say a lot of information and Dojin interrupted him and said, too many words. He turned around and said, if he doesn't like it, he'll go. The manager held out his hand and shouted, 9%, but it's really a loss for them. MC told them not to lose anything then. The manager shouted, 8%. If the boss finds out, he'll beat him half to death. Dojin ordered him not to do anything that would get them beaten. The manager shouted, 7%. He can't give in anymore. MC let out an irritated breath and said that he never asked to give in. The manager said 6%. There's no profit for them anymore. Dojin asked, how can a merchant survive without profit? The employee continued to rub the stones and looked at the men with displeasure. MC looked at the manager, who was kneeling in front of him, and said, given their past interactions, he'll settle for a commission of 1%. The manager imagined how loudly he would scream, yes, he's a terrible robber. He clenched his jaw and lowered his head down, and Dojin smiled and said that he was telling in advance, he has 7 more bags like this. The manager screamed, what is he standing there for? He ordered to quickly bring the contract. After a while, 67 billion won was credited to MC's account, and he thought that at this rate, buying a house for 110 billion won was very close. The only problem is that the gate is not enough to collect high-level magic stones. If only he could freely enter the rift zones. Suddenly, a loud sound came from his phone. The manager asked fearfully, what is this? Has a wave formed? MC looked at the administrative notification and said, this is England. He was thinking. The message said, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a wave has formed in the long southern region in England. Businessmen and tourists should hurry up in adjusting their plans. The safety of Koreans abroad is confirmed by the embassy. MC turned around and said, people without abilities. Previously, no matter what country the MC was in, no matter what associations existed, he would go and stop the rift zone, but he doesn't live by those principles anymore. After a while, the meat was being cooked on the fire, and Eunyoung watched it with admiration. Grandma looked at the menu and asked, Dojin, isn't 250,000 won for 100 grams too expensive? MC took a sip from his glass and replied, he made a lot of money this time. No need to worry, let them eat as much as they want. Eunyoung cut off a piece of meat and ate it, after which she widened her eyes and began to hum happily. MC asked the waitress to bring fresh spare ribs, premium beef tenderloin, chuck tail, and swallow's nest. He asked for 4 servings of each. Grandma asked, isn't he ordering too much? How will they eat it all? Dojin smiled and suggested that they eat until they're full today. Grandma, let her eat a lot too. Eunyoung handed her a piece of meat on a fork and Grandma said, oh my god. Eunyoung smiled and said, Grandma, the meat is so good she needs to try it soon. Dojin said, their Eunyoung is so kind. Grandma tried the meat and her eyes widened in pleasure. She smiled and looked to the side where a girl appeared on the horizon who caught everyone's attention. Jiyun walked up to the MC and asked, Sir, so Dojin? Can they talk? He is a hero. The MC turned around and interrupted her asking, can't she see that he is trying to spend time with his family? If she has something to do with him, then let her come over when they are done. Jiyun froze and thought, but she is Hyun Jiyun? She fell silent and hung her head for a while. She asked, is that so? She thought, what kind of person is he? Jiyun entered the waiting room and sat down on a chair there. Everyone turned to look at her in surprise and asked, is this the same Hyun Jiyun, the world star, the S-rank heroine Hyun Jiyun? That's right. That's right, she deserves to be on the list of the top 10 most beautiful heroes in the world. But who is she waiting for here? What kind of person could make Hyun wait? Ji-yeon frowned and thought. Seo Dojin. 2 months ago, he entered the gate for the first time and survived. It is likely that he was awake there, then became a suspect and was declared dead in a new rift in Mappo. But he is clearly alive and sitting here now, the man who made her tense up with just a look and one word. But how can someone who awakened 2 months ago become S rank? The oil conglomerate Komore decided to buy the magic stones, but it took him 5 years to reach S rank. There's no way this guy could have risen so high. He must have some kind of special ability. After a while, Yoon stood up and thanked him for the food, smiling from ear to ear. They headed towards the exit, where Ji-yeon was waiting for the MC. Suddenly, Cholwoo appeared in front of them and asked, "What, Seo Dojin? Was he imagining things? How did he crawl out of the gate?" MC looked at him and thought, "Kong Cholwoo." He brought his face closer and said, he knew he was an insect, but he didn't think he was as tenacious as a cockroach. Ji-yeon thought in surprise, Kang Cholwoo showed up here and now? He grimaced, and MC turned to Ji-yeon and said, "She's there. Did she say she had business with him?" Cholwoo turned around and asked, puzzled, "Hyun Ji-yeon, what?" Dojin said he would listen to her, so she should take care of his family. Ji-yeon asked again, "What do you mean take care of?" MC turned around and replied, "She needs to send them home by taxi. He will have to stay late, he needs to pay back some debt." After a while, Ji-yeon opened the door of the taxi and asked them not to worry and go. She raised her hand and said goodbye to the sweet young lady. The taxi left and Ji-yeon exhaled heavily. At the same time, in the cafe, the protagonist confidently raised his hand and Cholwoo looked at him with incomprehension. Cholwoo said with great rage that MC is finished. The waitress apologized to the visitors and clarified that if they fight here. Cholwoo angrily waved his hand and interrupted her, ordered the waitress to leave. She fell to the floor, dropping the tray and screaming. The protagonist ordered everyone to go outside. Cholwoo screamed with a mad look, "MC wants to die?" Dojin quickly struck the enemy. Cholwoo got down on one knee, put his hand to his face, and grunted. The protagonist terrifyingly raised his fist and addressed the enemy. He asked. Cholwoo brought him to the gate and locked him there. Condemning him to death? They have a lot to talk about. MC ominously asked, "Does the opponent agree?" Cholwoo smiled terrifyingly and sighed, asked, "What should he talk about with someone who even his own father abandoned?" The protagonist's stepmother ordered him to kill MC. Dojin picked up the phone and turned on the recorder, asking the opponent to say it again. Cholwoo exclaimed with a mad grin that the protagonist was saying strange things. He filled his fist with flames and clarified, "What should he say?" Cholwoo quickly raised his hand with the intention of attacking and asked, "Is the protagonist's mother a damn fool?" He ordered MC to die here and now. Dojin instantly raised his hand shrouded in mana and stopped the opponent's fist. Cholwoo instantly slid back. He thought in confusion. His fist bounced off, the protagonist spread mana around, and the enemy flew to the side, raising streams of smoke underneath him. MC quickly jumped towards him and smoke rose in the cafe. The waitress, looking at her phone in fear, called out to the police. She noted that she had already called them many times. Ji-yeon took the phone from her. She smiled and asked the waitress not to worry, and clarified that she would take care of everything. The waitress, with great fear, raised herself up and thanked the lady. MC deals many blows to the enemy with great force. Ji-yeon looked at him and thought that Cholwoo was also a strong B-rank hero, but for him to be the only one taking the blows. Is the protagonist really higher than B-rank? No. Higher than A-rank? Even if MC is A-rank, how is he able to deal with B-rank like that? Ji-yeon turned to Dojin and after thinking for a bit, said that Cholwoo would die if the protagonist continued. MC looked down and immediately let go of the opponent. Ji-yeon tensely asked how much he knew about the opponent. Dojin calmly replied that he thought he knew almost everything there was to know. Is there really something important? Ji-yeon exhaled and replied that there was. Because Cholwoo's cousin is the S-rank hero Kang Pyo. The protagonist clarified that he knew this and asked if it was a problem. Ji-yeon thought that he knew everything, and still didn't think about the consequences. He was too reckless. She said that the selfish Cholwoo still did whatever he wanted thanks to Young Pyo's patronage. So what the protagonist just did could turn out very badly for him. Ji-yeon hardly knew about the feud between the two of them, but it was a mistake to assume that Young Pyo would look into it. MC smirked and Ji-yeon asked in surprise, "Isn't he afraid of him?" Dojin replied that he was much more concerned about the fact that she knew a lot about him. The protagonist looked into Ji-yeon's eyes with horror. At the same time, the waitress, hiding behind the counter in fear, thought that Ji-yeon had said that she would take care of everything. Ji-yeon apologized for the sudden meeting and clarified that her uncle simply asked for something. The protagonist had come to Stoneman in Gasan and sold magic stones there, hadn't he? She asked MC to sell them to her. Dojin calmly asked how much. Ji-yeon replied that she would buy everything he had. The protagonist clarified, but the amount was quite considerable. Ji-yeon confidently said that he couldn't even imagine how much money an S-rank hero had. MC clarified that it wasn't that he couldn't sell them, but he had a condition. He confidently smiled and noted that it was nothing special. She could easily fulfill it. After a while, the glass fell to the floor and the liquid broke and spilled out. Hiju yelled furiously, holding the bottle in her hand, that he was supposed to be dead. The protagonist was supposed to die when entering the new rift. Manager Lee calmly lowered his head. He replied that he was sorry. Even the Hero Association thought that MC was dead. Hiju yelled angrily that she didn't need an excuse. What was Manager going to do about this? Manager Lee replied that there was something else he needed to report to her. Chilwoo was beaten by Dojin. Hiju said in surprise that maybe the protagonist knew something. She confidently thought that she couldn't let grandpa or father hear about this. Hiju could cover it up somehow, so it didn't matter. But if the media found out, the company's stock would fall. They needed to stop this. Hiju pointed her finger at the manager and ordered him to control the media. If they publish the articles, not only T Group but also W Group will cut back on their advertising and never want to do business with them again. First, the manager needs to silence the police, now. Manager Lee replied that they had already silenced the police and media. Hiju exhaled with relief and sat down on a chair and said that the manager was a good man. Manager Lee put his hand to his mouth and approached the head and asked, but she knew that this was not a universal solution to the problem, right? So he needed to tell her. The manager whispered to her that Chilwoo's cousin was Young Pyo. Hiju asked in surprise, her friend Young Pyo? Chilwoo even has a reputation as trash among the heroes. In society, Young Pyo is considered to adore Chilwoo's brother. But in reality, Chilwoo was only the one doing all the bad work for his brother. The manager said that if Chilwoo was manipulated by the police and media, it would mean trouble for Young Pyo. So he thinks they have started making moves too. Hiju said she needs to meet him. She asked the manager to arrange a meeting as soon as possible. Manager Lee agreed and replied that it would be done. Hiju clarified, did HCS Capital President Chainsa betray them? The manager confirmed it and clarified that the president cared about the MC family. Hiju looked horrified and asked the manager to contact the prosecutor immediately. He must pay for abandoning her and siding with that freak. There are a total of 37 rift zones in South Korea. Among them, 5 zones are currently being converted into gates, and the rest can only be hunted by heroes affiliated with the Hero Association according to an agreed-upon schedule. The man handed over a card and turned to Juyeon and said that her identity was confirmed. He hoped they would return in good health after this foray. The hunters walked forward and the protagonist thought there was only one entrance. Moreover, even knowing that she is Juyeon, they check her background very well and control the passage. Jung Inju, a member of the Hero Association, A-rank heroine of South Korea, leader of the guild Dance of the Silk Fragrant Flower. She noted with a smile that Juyeon was the first to suggest going hunting in the Rift Zone. This is very unusual. Juyeon asked tensely. She thought, what is the point of going to low-rank rifts where it will be boring? She turned her head to the side and looked at MC. Juyeon remembered the past. Dojin said that he only had one condition. If she helps pass into the Rift Zone, he will sell her all the magic stones he has at the market price. She will ask, what is the reason? You can earn more money while hunting in the Rift Zones. Juyeon came out of her memories and thought, did he come to the dangerous zone only for this purpose? The protagonist is definitely out of his mind. Even without taking into account her uncle's request, she needs the hero's magic stones anyway, so she doesn't mind at all, but still. The hunters came out of the passage. Inju shyly asked her to tell her the truth and asked who he was. Juyeon irritably replied that he was just an acquaintance. Inju wondered if Juyeon thought she would believe that. Was the protagonist by any chance her friend's potential boyfriend? Juyeon replied that it was not like that. She just had to fulfill his request, and she brought him here just for that. Inju asked in surprise, did the S-rank heroine Juyeon owe someone? Juyeon confirmed this and noted that there was such a thing. The hunters noticed something and looked up. They quickly got into fighting stances. A monster with a terrifying appearance flew towards them. Inju screamed in fear that it was a Caucastrian. Juyeon turned her head to the side in anger and ordered Jinju and Doyeon to stand up for defense, and on Sungho's legs. The protagonist decisively jumped towards Caucastrian. The hunters looked at him in amazement. MC filled his fist with mana and noted that this was the first. Some time ago, Inju snorted in irritation and noted that she had just entered the gate and immediately, currently Dojin enveloped his hand in flames. He struck the enemy with great force. Caucastrian quickly fell to the ground, raising a stream of smoke underneath him. The protagonist landed on the ground, and Juyeon looked at him in surprise. A powerful mark from the blow remained on Caucastrian's cheek. Sungho asked in amazement, did he kill him with one blow? MC raised his leg and replied that he had not yet. He kicked Caucastrian in the cheek and added that this is how the enemy will die. The hunters were stunned to see this. Inju looked at the heroine and asked, what kind of person is he? Juye asked in surprise, is he just strong? Inju grabbed her by the shoulders and shaking her from side to side asked, is this called an answer? How many heroes can kill Caucastrian with one blow? Juyeon smiled and answered that if this is a simple murder, Inju is also capable of it. Inju irritably hit her comrade with her hand and screamed. Ji-yeon saw it with her own eyes, and now she is saying something completely different. Right in the air, Cacastrian couldn't even dodge the blow while flying and crashed into his fist, and in just one blow, Ji-yeon looked at MC and thought, "This man, who is he?" She sternly said that they are changing the plan. Ji-yeon will go check the central area. Dojin calmly stabbed the knife into the Cacastrian's body. He looked at the crystal and said that he did not wish to share anything with those who had not contributed anything. Ji-yeon clarified that she had no intention of asking for a share. His skills did not seem to match this place. The protagonist was planning to go deeper? MC smirked upon hearing this. He confidently raised his weapon and replied that it would be interesting. Ji-yeon turned to the side and said that she knew the geography of this area, so she would guide him. She asked Dojin to follow her and not to lag behind if he did not want to get lost. Ji-yeon quickly headed to the side, leaving a trail of smoke behind her. The protagonist looked in her direction without responding. He placed his hand on the ground and ran after her at great speed. The hunters screamed as they looked at the rising gusts of wind. Inju exhaled and noted that if Ji-yeon was a bullet, then this guy was a swift beam of light. The hunter turned to the guild master and asked if they would go with them. Inju asked sternly, would he be able to keep up with them? The hunter replied that it was obviously impossible. Inju said that they were right, that they were just supporting characters today, so they could hunt around the area like they always did. The hunters agreed and headed off to the sides. Inju looked at the corpse of Cacastrian and thought that everyone was praising them as A-rank heroes, but compared to S-rank heroes, they were just insects. And Ji-yeon and that man. At the same time, Ji-yeon was running fast through the forest. She turned around and, not seeing the protagonist, wondered if she should slow down. MC instantly appeared next to her and asked if she could run faster. Ji-yeon was very surprised and immediately stumbled. She was dumbfounded and wondered, what just happened? Was she really overtaken? In terms of speed, she is number 2 in Korea. Dojin calmly stopped and lifted his leg. He looked at her and said that she was slower than he thought. Although Ji-yeon ran as if she had made it her goal not to be caught. Ji-yeon yelled angrily. Who said that she decided so? She awkwardly leaned her hands on her knees and exclaimed that they looked at the mountain in the distance. The protagonist called out to her and asked, what was that over there? Ji-yeon seriously replied that it was the place where the boss of the Rift Zone lived. MC had heard of Kassarian, a 20-meter giant that looked like a pterodactyl. Dojin shouldn't even think about challenging him. At least 3 S-rank heroes were needed to kill him. Dojin wondered if it contained a magical stone of the transcendental level. Ji-yeon confirmed it and replied that such stones were dropped from it. But why would the protagonist need to know that? She raised her hand in fear and asked, he's not going to kill him, is he? Ji-yeon didn't bring him here for MC to do stupid things. Dojin instantly ran forward, cutting through the air. Ji-yeon was very scared and wondered, what was he planning? She ordered him to stop right now. Ji-yeon ran after the protagonist at high speed. After a while, she fell into a stupor and stopped. Ji-yeon looked at the dead boss with confusion and wondered, what just happened? She turned her attention to the protagonist, holding a knife in his hand. Ji-yeon thought with amazement that Kassarian was surprisingly strong. Park Hae-yeol is an S-rank hero, a famous killer of Kassarian. Even he went after him for the first time with 30 S-rank heroes. They all died, and only Hae-yeol barely managed to survive. After that, he went to take revenge, taking 1 S-rank hero and 200 A-rank heroes with him. He finally managed to defeat Kassarian, but most of the participants in the battle died heroically. The Mega Guild's Sweet Life, led by Hae-yeol, suffered such losses that even after 3 years, it still cannot recover. The protagonist looked away and asked, she does understand that she did not make any contribution, right? Ji-yeon thought in surprise that she would never have believed it if she had not seen it with her own eyes. The infamous Kassarian fell from one blow from this man. MC picked up the crystal and looked at it. He put the crystal in his bag and said that he no longer needed directions. Dojin walked away and clarified that he would go alone from now on. Ji-yeon asked, will the protagonist not take Kassarian's artifacts? In addition to the magic stones, he also has a beak, claws, and other very valuable materials. MC instantly stopped. He turned his head to the side and replied that they are not worth money. Ji-yeon didn't say anything, and Dojin raised his hand and said that it would be much more effective to take the magic stones from other monsters. She could keep the rest of the artifacts for herself. Ji-yeon could consider it payment for showing the way. Ji-yeon looked at the corpse and replied that she didn't need them. After some time, the hunters were standing in the forest. They looked at the bags lying on the ground. The hunter raised his hand and said that the protagonist came with a huge backpack, which was now filled to the brim with magic stones. Can the master believe this? Inju pointed out that for such a quantity, an entire guild would need to hunt for at least 20 hours. And if you look at the stones, even 3 whole days of continuous hunting. Who the hell is he? She looked at Ji-yeon and thought that it was not only about the quantity and quality of the stones. If what Ji-yeon said was true, MC single-handedly defeated Kassarian without any proper equipment or suit. This alone promises Dojin the status of the strongest hero in South Korea. No, maybe even the strongest in the world. Inju turned her head to the side and looked at the protagonist carrying the bags in his hands. MC threw the bags on the ground. The hunters noticed with surprise that he filled them up again. People won't believe them if they talk about what happened today, right? They'll just think they're fools. The hunter said he'll clarify. He asked them not to tell anyone about this. The hunter doesn't know if anyone will believe them, even if they do. The huntress asked with a smile, "Is that really the case?" Ju-yeon walked up to MC, and the hunters turned their attention to them. The hunter asked if they were really flirting with each other. Inju replied that they most likely were. She should have noticed back then when Ju-yeon brought that weird guy with her. Judging by his appearance, he's her equal. Otherwise, the protagonist would have looked unworthy of Ju-yeon. The hunter noticed that they looked good together. A handsome man and a very nice girl. At first glance, it was clear that they were a couple. Inju tensely brought her fist to her mouth and thought it was strange to call it that. MC was being casual with Ju-yeon. Inju would never have thought that someone would talk to her in such a tone. Dojin calmly threw the bag into Ju-yeon's hands. He turned around and headed into the forest. Inju asked in confusion, did he just leave? Without even saying goodbye to them? But what about those backpacks? Would MC just leave them? Ju-yeon responded that when she said that if it became known that Dojin killed Kasarian, he would become popular in an instant. The protagonist replied that he did not need fame and asked to leave the stones with her. Inju asked in amazement, what kind of person is he? Ju-yeon became very embarrassed and looking down thought, what kind of person is he? After some time in the building, Hayeol punches the punching bag with great force. He clenched his teeth in rage and raised his fist. Hayeol punched the punching bag and it instantly burst into pieces. He lowered his hand and exclaimed that he was in terrible shape. Hayeol is an S-rank hero of the Korean Hero Association and the leader of the Sweet Life Guild. The assistant grinned madly while holding a towel in his hand and asked the leader to calm down. They say that the frog that crawls slowly jumps far. The more fortitude the leader can find in himself during such difficult times, the more his reputation will grow. Hayeol put the towel to his mouth and replied that the assistant was right. This way, he could strike back at the freaks who looked down on him. The assistant smiled and agreed with the leader and said that over time, the leader would gain power that would blow up the world of the awakened. When the time comes, everyone will fall before Hayeol. Besides, when it comes to how to defeat Kasarian, who knows more than the leader? Hayeol will go down in history as the hero who defeated Kasarian with the least amount of people in the world. The Hero Association might even award the leader exclusive rights. Hayeol took the water bottle from the assistant's hand and replied that the assistant was right. No one knows him as well as he does. But the guild has shrunk too much compared to how many there were 3 years ago. However, Hayeol is the only one who can definitely kill this bird. He asked, smiling, right? The assistant agreed with the gentleman with a mad smile and clarified, who else besides the leader is capable of this? After some time, the protagonist's data was written in the documents. Young Pyo looked at the document and clarified, Dojin? Is this guy? The assistant confirmed this and said that a few months ago, Cholu tried to kill the protagonist by throwing him out of the gate. Young Pyo clarified, but the MC there not only survived, but also awakened. The assistant calmly confirmed this, and the leader asked him to continue. The assistant added that the client is Heeju, the CEO of T Group. She is also the second daughter of the president of W Group. Young Pyo noted that no matter how you look at it, she is important. Why would she run after this boy? The assistant replied that, in all likelihood, Dojun is the illegitimate son of the president of T Group. They brought him home at the age of 7, but after Heeju gave birth to a son 6 years ago, he was kicked out of the house. Young Pyo pointed out that this did not change the fact of kinship. He believed that the Chaebol family did not value their offspring very much. He smiled maliciously and laughed. Young Pyo stood up from his chair and asked, so how much was Cholwoo pay for the job? The assistant replied that it was 3 billion, and the head asked, is that so? And in the end this fool failed? The assistant agreed and added that he heard that Cholwoo was not just beaten, his entire body was covered in burns. Cholwoo was completely blind and was on the verge of life and death. Young Pyo lifted his hockey stick and said that what a cruel protagonist. He smiled terrifyingly and stuck his tongue out of his mouth, thinking that if he were in his place, he would rip out his limbs and kill his brother. The assistant clarified that there were rumors at the scene that Ju-yeon helped MC. Young Pyo looked at the assistant with fury and asked, why would she help him? What kind of relationship do they have? The assistant raised his hand in fear and replied that he could not say. But thanks to her testimony, this incident was hushed up. Young Pyo grabbed the assistant by the jacket with great anger and ordered him to find out immediately. Find out what kind of relationship there was between them. If there is nothing between them, it means that there was some kind of agreement. The assistant must find out with all precision. The assistant ran to the exit in fear and yelled that he was going to find out now. Young Pyo squeezed the hockey stick in his hand and, breaking it, snorted. He pursed his lips and thought that very soon Heeju would come to him. hire her for what that fool Cholwoo could not do. Young Pyo smiled madly and said that since she was from Chaebol, he was sure that she had a lot of money. After some time, the protagonist walked along the road. MC thought that, as he suspected, hunting in the rift was much more effective than in the gate, so he will need Ji-yeon to get past the security. He remembered the past. Ji-yeon said that if he sells the Kassarian magic stones, people will start looking for their original owner. The media will pester Dojin day and night, so she suggests keeping them for now. If his goal is fame, she will not stop him. What did the protagonist decide? MC calmly threw the bag into her hands. Dojin smirked, came out of the memories, and said that they need to find another way to get into the rift zones. But first, he will rest in the new house prepared by Chang Sub. MC opened the door slightly and looked down, wondering, are these shoes? Dojin opened the door to the room and Eun-young called out to his brother. He looked at his relatives sitting on the couch surrounded by men. The prosecutor, Park Chul-young, calmly looked at the protagonist. The sister ran up to MC and hugged him. Dojin seriously asked, who are they? Chul-young introduced himself in a terrifying manner and said that he was from the Seoul District Prosecutor's Office. Does the protagonist know Mr. Chang Seo? MC became very tense and Chul-young announced that Dojin had been arrested for assisting Chang Seo, CEO of HCS Capital, in illegal high-interest loan sharking operations. Sometime later, at the prosecutor's office, the protagonist is sitting in the interrogation room. At the same time, Chul-young, agreeing, asked the director not to worry. He clarified that Chang Seop and Dojin are assisting the investigation. The prosecutor, holding the phone to his ear, laughed and said into the receiver that he should thank the director, since it was thanks to the director that his daughter was now studying abroad. He asked to convey his gratitude to Director Hong. After all, Chul-young became a prosecutor only to remove this trash from the streets. Sometime later, the documents fell on the table. The prosecutor looked at the sheets and asked what the protagonist had done anyway. These charges alone would be enough to put MC behind bars for 10 years. Chul-young showed Dojin's sheet and noted that Chang Seop had already reported on the protagonist enough. MC didn't react at all, and the prosecutor yelled angrily, does Dojin think he's not telling the truth? The protagonist asked, is this the work of that idiot Heeju? The prosecutor was very surprised and asked, who is this? The protagonist thought that judging by the mood, Chang Seop's team was completely dismantled. But he didn't swear and agreed to pass peacefully so as not to make noise, but in such a way. Chul-young clarified that he couldn't understand where MC got such self-importance from. He looked at the protagonist with horror and asked, does Dojin think the Korean prosecutor's office is some kind of joke? The protagonist is definitely finished. MC filled his eyes with aura and looked at the prosecutor ominously. Chul-young was very scared and shook. He clenched his teeth in rage and raised his hand and shouted that the protagonist is a freak. MC didn't react to his scream and Chul-young froze. The assistant opened the door and turned to the prosecutor and said that his opinion was needed. After some time, Chul-young looked at the documents in surprise and asked, perhaps the machine broke down or something? The assistant disagreed and said that he had examined everything just in case, but there were no problems with the device. Chul-young clarified, did the hero-level scanner really say that MC was an ordinary person? That was some kind of oddity. The assistant replied that he didn't understand anything either. Perhaps the information about his awakening was incorrect? The prosecutor thought that this information came from T Group. It couldn't be wrong. Dojin also knows Heeju. What kind of man is this? At the same time, MC breathed a sigh of relief. He thought that now he understood why Korean prosecutors were called dogs. Maybe he should destroy everything here? Dojin will take his grandmother and Eun-young and just go somewhere. Ji-yeon looked at him in surprise and asked, what is he doing here? The protagonist exhaled and replied that he didn't understand either. Ji-yeon clarified, but no hasty decisions. Okay? She understood that the protagonist was hurt, but using force would only make things worse. The MC asked, so she was trying to help him? Ji-yeon noted that it wasn't so much helping, but rather that she just knew that he had done nothing wrong. If she didn't know anything, that would be fine, but now that she knew that an innocent man had been falsely accused, Ji-yeon couldn't ignore it. The protagonist smirked and noted that that was it. Ji-yeon said that the Hero Association would conduct its own investigation, which would take into account the actions of an unlicensed hero in the recent rift near a house in the Mapo district. The MC asked what happened to his family. Ji-yeon was surprised and froze in place. She asked irritably, is she some kind of secretary or something? Why would she need to spy on his family as well? Dojin looked at her sternly. Ji-yeon turned around and replied that his family was safe and that the protagonist didn't have to worry. MC thanked her with a smile and said that he would definitely repay the debt. Ji-yeon sheepishly asked him to hang in there no matter what. She would handle the matter as soon as possible. Ji-yeon decided that there was no need to prove Dojin's innocence through the usual channels. She chose to tell everyone about Chul-young's bribery, in exchange for which he handed down illegal sentences, which led to his dismissal. Independent investigation confirmed that Dojin had nothing to do with the accusation. However, he was unable to avoid being charged with heroic work without a license. Juyan again actively defended him, which led to a suspended sentence. The radio in car announced that a never-before-seen monster had appeared in the UK and was continuing to attack civilians. It looks like a praying mantis, a 1.5-meter-tall monster with 4 eyes. It jumps from place to place. The protagonist calmly said that it was a Macassian. Juyan was very surprised and asked how MC knew. It was a completely new monster. Only associations knew this name. Monster names are not made up as you please. Mana stones contain not only energy, but also information. Its analysis reveals the name of the monsters along with other data. Modern Earth carries it out with the help of scientific developments. In the fallen world, this was achieved with magic. So as long as the same monsters appear in this world as in that one, Dojin will already know most of it. MC clarified that Macassian can be easily dealt with using an extract from a red fire ant. They are harmless to humans, but their poison is paralytic for Macassians. Spray one, and it will no longer jump back and forth, as they say. Juyan asked tensely, "Who is Dojin really?" The protagonist did not answer, and the car quickly drove forward. Juyan asked angrily, "Is he even listening to her?" The MC looked at her with horror and asked what would happen if he suddenly killed Hiju. After some time, Hiju bit her fingernails out of anxiety. Manager Lee, holding a sheet in his hands, said that the situation turned out like this. Hiju asked irritably, "Why Juyan?" The manager raised his hands and answered that it was unknown yet. What kind of relationship is she in with the protagonist, and how do they even know each other? Hiju asked furiously, "That same Juyan, what the hell is going on?" She quickly stood up from her chair and screamed, "And what is the manager saying?" "What do you mean? Dojin is not a hero." The manager said that MC awake. Manager Lee scratched his head and clarified that according to eyewitnesses, it really seems like Dojin is awake. Perhaps the protagonist has some kind of ability that allows him to fool the scanner. This is all just speculation. Hiju became very angry and raised her finger, ordering the manager to contact Youngpyo. 20 billion, no 30, let Youngpyo get to work right now. At the same time, Youngpyo said that for some 30 billion, he would not work. He smiled arrogantly and ordered them to double the amount. The assistant was surprised and asked, "Isn't that too much?" Youngpyo raised a finger and clarified, "The assistant doesn't understand?" In Hiju's opinion, he is the only way out. Besides, once the job is done, this lady won't even have to think about some 60 billion. And then Juyan decided to interfere. Since he has to face another S rank, at least this is what he deserves. The assistant pointed out that Juyan is definitely a dangerous opponent. Youngpyo slammed his feet on the table in anger, and the assistant became scared. He looked at the assistant with irritation and said that he is such a freak, the assistant doesn't understand at all. The assistant thinks that all S ranks are the same? He would kill someone like this Juyan in about 20 minutes. The assistant tensely agreed with the head. Youngpyo smiled crazily and asked what the association was saying. The assistant replied that they asked him to tell him that they could not increase the payout because of the events in the UK. However, the association had publicly stated that they were very good at selecting the heroes they would send to fix the problem. Youngpyo irritably noted that it would be difficult to say that the pay was too low to go. Those assholes from the association were real bandits. He turned his head to the side and asked when they were leaving. The assistant replied that the flight would be in 3 days. They had planned a joint transfer with the Japanese heroes. Youngpyo was happy and noted that he had planned to meet Takashi anyway. He looked out the window and said that Macassian was a new monster whose weakness no one had yet discovered, which meant that once he dealt with it, he would only become more influential. Sometime later, in Cambridge, UK, people were running away from a huge monster. The hunters stopped and looked at Macassian standing in the smoke. The monster growled terrifyingly and raised its paw. Macassian slammed its paw into the ground and left a dent in it. The hunters and mages attacked the enemy. Mana explosions thundered near Macassian. The monster's head fell down and the monster instantly fell to the ground, raising clouds of smoke beneath it. The hunters, tired, stopped and looked at its corpse. The huntress looked tensely at the many walking monsters. She was very scared, and blood got on the building's clock. The heroes of Great Britain are doing their best to prevent the monsters from advancing further, but without reliable information about the enemy, they were helpless. With the fall of the front line, Cambridge is now, London is no more than 60 kilometers away. Many Macassians stand amidst the dark smoke. The burning eyes of the monsters instantly went out and they fell to the ground. At the same time, a helicopter hung in the clouds. The S-rank hunters exclaimed in amazement that it was true. Miss Juyan was right. Does red fire ant extract really work? The Macassians can't even stand on their feet. Youngpyo looked at her in horror and thought that there was no way this girl was so knowledgeable. What was going on here? Juyan excitedly exclaimed that this was good. It was time to end this. The hunters resolutely agreed with this. They quickly jumped out of the helicopter. After some time, the plane flew over the airport. Reporters were standing in front of the doors waiting for the hunters. The guy was amazed to notice that there were a lot of reporters here. As expected from Juyan? Without a shadow of a doubt, it was she who saved Great Britain. The comrade happily noted that it was she who found the Macassian weakness. As a result, she saved England from destruction. Naturally, Ji-yeon was a real heroine. They said that the British royal family was going to award her the title of knight. The guy, without listening to his comrades, shouted that here she is. Ji-yeon entered the airport and reporters started taking pictures of her. They called out to Ji-yeon and asked her to look over here. How did she know Macassian's weakness? They asked Mr. Youngpyo to comment on what happened. They say he killed the most Macassians in this raid. The host stood in front of the hunters and said into the microphone that a squad of 200 people, including the heroine Ji-yeon, returned home today. As the world now knows, the proud efforts of Korea's heroes saved Great Britain. The key moments in the hunt for the Macassians were the spreading of the red fire ant extract into the air. At the same time, the protagonist stood in the crowd and watched the report. Instantly, Youngpyo appeared on the report and the MC became very tense. Sometime later, in a cafe, Ji-yeon put 3 bags on the floor and said that this was a gift. This bag is for Yoon-young and his grandmother, and this one is for Dojin. The protagonist took the bag shyly. Ji-yeon crossed her arms and told him to look at his home. He didn't have to do it here. MC took out a gift and said that it was some kind of very expensive suit. Ji-yeon raised her cup and clarified that he could consider it a gesture of gratitude for his help. Thanks to Dojin, she even became a real heroine. Compared to what she got from him, this is nothing. If the protagonist wants, she can even buy him a car. MC calmly replied that he would let her know if he needed anything. Well, in fact, she helped him too. Ji-yeon seriously clarified, even if she asked about how he knew about Macassian's weakness, he wouldn't answer, would he? MC wondered, should he? Ji-yeon calmly exhaled and said nothing. She asked what he was going to do next. Ji-yeon thought that she certainly didn't expect an answer like creating peace in the world from this man. But if Dojin was targeting Heju or Youngpyo, the situation could get out of control and she would have to prevent it. The protagonist calmly replied that he wanted to buy a house first. Ji-yeon asked if he was renting a place to live now. At the same time, girls were relaxing near the house. Youngpyo was sitting in the pool surrounded by girls. He thought with a horrified look that Ji-yeon had changed, although barely noticeably. For example, she knew about Macassian's weakness and didn't even say a word about where she was from. He remembered the past. Youngpyo asked what was going on with her and Dojin. Ji-yeon, with a mask over her eyes sitting in a plain seat, asked what he was talking about. Youngpyo asked if she told him about the prosecutor only to get the protagonist out of jail. And she was there when that MC beat up Cholwoo, right? Ji-yeon sternly lifted her mask and replied that Cholwoo had brought it on himself. He threw it into the gate himself. Youngpyo remembers this contract, right? Even on the day of the fight, Cholwoo threw the first punch. Youngpyo grinned terrifyingly and said that Cholwoo was already doing all sorts of weird things for pennies. He wouldn't be surprised if his brother suddenly died. But still, Cholwoo is his brother. Does she understand that? Youngpyo looked at her ominously and clarified that he meant that now he has a reason to take revenge on Dojun. Ji-yeon looked ominously into his eyes. She calmly turned her head to the side and replied that he should do as he wants. After all, it's none of her business. Youngpyo was surprised and thought, are they not as close as he thought? Ji-yeon put a mask on her eyes and added that no matter what, she has no need to interfere. Youngpyo came out of his memories and poured a glass of alcohol and thought, no need to interfere? That's exactly what she said. Dojin, this freak is definitely hiding something. England, Long Sutton, Shrubbery. This area was devastated by the recent wave of monsters. The British Hero Association did their best to obtain as many mana stones as possible before the second wave began, and sent many heroes into the rift. The hunter calmly noted that it was a pity, of course. If they only had a little extract from those fire ants, then even D ranks like them could have killed a couple of Macassians. The comrade raised his head in irritation and agreed, adding that if they had stopped that wave at the very beginning, there would have been a lot of stones. Rifts from which a wave has already burst out cannot be turned into gates. The comrade heard that the second wave would not be Macassians, but other monsters. The hunter replied that it was somehow scary not knowing what will come out. Entire countries have already been erased like this. He looked at the gate in confusion and the comrade asked, is something wrong? The hunter replied that it seemed as if someone had come out. The comrade asked, had the expeditionary detachment really returned already? Only 5 hours had passed. The hunters asked their comrade to focus on their work and clarified that soon 100% civilians would come running who wanted mana stones. Suddenly, the gate split and the hunters looked at them with great fear. A humanoid monster appeared from the gate. The hunters screamed in fear that this was not a hero, his clothes and these scars. The comrade ordered to contact headquarters, quickly. The monster raised his hand and directed mana rings towards the hunters. They fell to the ground in surprise and screamed, what is this? The hunter raised his blades and exclaimed that this was a curse. He threw weapons towards the enemy. The monster calmly waved his hand and threw the blades aside. He sternly called the hunters trash. The monster clenched his hand into a fist and filled the space with mana. The mana rings narrowed and struck the hunters. The monster directed dark mana into the phone, and it showed 19.26%. He sternly noted that 10 years had passed in this world's time, and he still hadn't reached 20%. Was this really a failure? Even after all he had gone through to create spatial rifts, it seemed like he should have raised his mana concentration first. The hunter lying on the ground asked, "What is this monster?" The monster grinned and added that he should get rid of the damn trash first. He instantly destroyed the hunters.